Most people quit their jobs for better pay. Some people quit because of what they saw. And some people quit because staying meant pretending they did not see it. 3 park rangers walked away from careers they had spent decades building. Not because of burnout, not because of money, because something in the parks they were protecting made continuing to work there feel like a lie they were no longer willing to tell. One of them filed a 40-page resignation letter. The Department of the Interior tried to legally remove it from the record. In that letter, he used one word to describe what he found inside a cave that does not appear on any geological map. That word is at the end of this video. And once you hear it, everything else tonight is going to make a different kind of sense. This is Obscure Nights, where the cases nobody talks about get told the way they actually happened. 15 years. That is what Silas gave to Olympic National Park before the night of September 3rd. 2017 ended it. 15 years of high-altitude patrols, wildlife management, search and rescue coordination, trail maintenance in conditions that would have broken most people inside a season. He knew that park the way you only know a place after 15 years of walking every mile of it in every season. He knew its sounds and its silences. He knew what belonged there. Which is why what he saw at the Elk Mountain Trail Junction at 7:43 p.m. on September 3rd stopped him completely. A hiker, standing at the junction facing north, male, full pack, trail-worn clothing, an orange and brown jacket, the specific kind with a sewn patch on the left shoulder, circular, a mountain range design, the kind of patch that was popular with certain backcountry clubs in the late 90s. Silas knew that jacket, not because he had seen it on another hiker, because he had seen it in a case file. A missing persons case from 1997, 20 years earlier. A 32-year-old man who had disappeared from that exact trail junction and was never recovered. The case file had photographs of his last known gear. That jacket, that patch, the specific weathering pattern on the right sleeve where the waterproofing had worn through. Silas had reviewed that case file during a training exercise 3 years earlier. He had a specific memory for detail. He was certain. He called out. The figure did not respond. He started moving toward it. Slowly at first, then faster, as the figure showed no sign of acknowledging him. Then the figure moved. Silas has described the movement many times since and always returns to the same word: stuttering. Not the natural movement of a person turning on uneven ground. A stuttering mechanical sequence, like footage played at the wrong frame rate, each position arriving separately rather than flowing from the one before it. The figure moved toward the granite face of the Elk Mountain Formation. Solid rock, no cave, no crevice wide enough for a person, and was gone. Not around it, into it. Silas stood at that rock face for several minutes. He touched it. Solid. He searched the perimeter. Nothing. He filed a full incident report that night and referenced the 1997 case file by number. The following morning, his supervisor called him in. The supervisor told him the case file he had referenced did not exist. Silas gave the file number, the year, the missing person's name, the specific details of the jacket and patch. His supervisor looked at him with an expression Silas described as practiced. The specific expression of someone delivering a prepared response rather than a genuine one, and told him there was no record of that case in the Olympic National Park system. Silas asked if the record had been removed. His supervisor did not answer. Silas left his badge on the supervisor's desk that evening. 15 years of service ended in 48 hours because he understood in that moment that the organization he had given those years to was not confused about what he had seen. They knew exactly what he had seen. and they had decided, a long time before September 3rd, 2017, that people who saw it should be convinced they had not. He told me, the jacket was real, the patch was real, the case file was real. I know what I reviewed, and I know that whatever was wearing that jacket at that junction was not the man who went missing in 1997. It was something that had found the jacket and decided to put it on. Whatever was wearing that 20-year-old jacket walked into solid granite and disappeared, and the case file it came from was erased before Silas could prove what he saw. If you believe these Rangers deserve to be heard, subscribe to Obscure Nights right now. We are pushing hard to hit 1,000 subscribers, and every single one is someone who makes sure these voices do not get buried again. Hit subscribe. Because Story 2, a valley that went silent. And what was inside the tree when the silence broke. She was not supposed to be in that valley, not because it was restricted. At the time of Elena's survey work in August 2019, it was still a standard biological monitoring zone, accessible to NPS staff with the correct clearance. She was not supposed to be there because her survey route that day did not include it. She had deviated to check a GPS anomaly that had been showing up intermittently in the bear population data. A cluster of location pings from tagged animals that kept appearing at the same coordinates in the valley and then disappearing. Elena was a biological technician. She followed anomalies. That was her job. She entered the valley at approximately 2 p.m. on August 11, 2019. She described the moment she crossed the tree line into the valley as the moment she understood what the word oppressive actually meant applied to silence. Not the quiet of a sleeping forest. Not the stillness between wind bands. A silence that felt constructed. Every ambient sound, insects, birds, the creek she had been following for a mile, stopped at the exact boundary of the valley as if they had hit a wall. She stood at that boundary for several seconds. Her training told her to log the observation and continue. She continued. The valley was old growth. Ancient oak, some of the largest she had ever seen in the Smokies. Their canopies so dense the light came through in columns. She was moving toward the GPS coordinates when she heard it. Singing, human voices, multiple. She estimated 8 to 12 distinct voices, though she said the acoustics of the valley made it difficult to be certain. Not contemporary music. A hymn, she recognized the structure but not the specific piece, and described it as the kind of congregational singing that belongs to a much earlier century. Coming from inside the largest oak at the center of the valley. She approached the tree. At its base, arranged in a perfect outward spiral approximately 4 meters in diameter, were personal electronic devices. Phones, smartwatches, a GPS unit, a fitness tracker. Arranged with the care of something that understood their significance without understanding their function. Every screen was active, and every device was playing audio. She picked up the nearest phone. A voice memo. A man's voice, calm, saying goodbye to someone named Patricia, saying he was sorry he could not explain where he was going, saying he loved her. She picked up another, a woman's voice, the same structure, a goodbye, a name, an apology for the inexplicable. She counted 14 devices before she stopped counting. The singing continued from inside the tree while she stood there. She could not identify the sound source. The tree was solid, no cavity visible, no opening of any kind. She filed a full report with photographs of the device spiral, GPS coordinates, audio descriptions. 3 weeks later, she was informed the valley had been reclassified as a restricted ecological zone. Effective immediately, retroactively from a date 6 months before her visit, meaning her survey entry was technically unauthorized. She was reassigned to a data processing position in Washington, D.C. She quit instead. The devices were never publicly logged as evidence in any missing persons case. Elena submitted a FOIA request for the report she had filed. She received a response stating no such report existed in the system. She told me, "I know what those voices were saying. 14 people said goodbye on those recordings. 14 people who went somewhere they could not come back from and somehow left their last words at the base of a tree in a valley that the Park Service has now decided nobody is allowed to visit. A jacket from a 20-year-old case file worn by something that walked through solid rock. 14 goodbye recordings arranged in a spiral at the base of a tree in a valley that no longer officially exists. Both rangers filed reports. Both reports were erased. The third ranger did not just file a report, he wrote 40 pages. And the one word in those 40 pages that the Department of the Interior tried hardest to remove is coming right now. Stay with me, and if you are not subscribed to Obscure Nights, right now is the moment. The work order said cave entrance sealing, routine maintenance, priority level 3, meaning non-urgent, meaning the kind of job that gets assigned to a specialized crew on a slow week in November with no particular expectation that anything unusual would be found. Marcus had been on dozens of cave sealing jobs in 9 years with the NPS Maintenance Division. Old mine shafts, collapsed limestone formations, unstable entrances that posed liability risks. He knew the work. He had his crew of 4 and a specific set of equipment for the job and a location that appeared on his work order, but not on any geological survey map he could find before they left. He noted the map discrepancy. He was told by his supervisor it was an administrative error. He logged the discrepancy and went anyway. November 14th, 2021. The cave entrance was in a rock formation in a restricted sector of Shoshone National Forest, a section Marcus had never accessed in 9 years despite working the surrounding area regularly. The entrance itself was unremarkable, standard width, natural formation, nothing that suggested anything other than routine work. They went in with headlamps and equipment. Marcus has never fully described what the interior of that cave looked like. In his 40-page letter, he devoted 3 pages to explaining why he would not describe it in detail. His reasoning being that some descriptions create images that cannot be removed from the mind of the person reading them, and he did not want that for anyone who had not chosen to go into that cave. What he does describe is the structure. Approximately 30 meters inside the cave, in a chamber large enough to stand in, was a structure. Not a natural formation. A structure. Built or grown, Marcus said he was never certain which word was correct. From a material he had never encountered. Dark, not reflective. He described it as absorbing light rather than blocking it. The headlamp beams hit it and did not bounce back, did not scatter, simply stopped at its surface as if light had decided not to continue. One of his crew members reached out to touch it. Marcus told me he did not look away in time. He said the crew member's arm ceased to exist from the point of contact. No wound, no blood, no sound. The arm was there, and then the boundary where the structure began, it was not. The crew member looked at where his arm had been with an expression Marcus described as the specific confusion of a person whose mind has not yet accepted what their body already knows. They ran. Outside the cave, an unmarked vehicle was already waiting. The same agency. The same practiced efficiency Marcus recognized from accounts he had heard from other NPS staff. The crew was separated. debriefed individually. NDAs presented. Marcus refused to sign. He went home and wrote for 6 days. 40 pages. Everything he had seen, everything he knew, every discrepancy he had logged over 9 years that he had been told were administrative errors. He sent copies to 3 separate recipients before filing it officially. The Department of the Interior filed a legal motion to have the document classified. 2 of his 3 copies were recovered. 1 was not. That copy is how Obscure Nights has the account you are hearing tonight. The word Marcus used in those 40 pages to describe the structure in that cave. The word the Department of the Interior tried hardest to redact was alive, not built, not grown, not formed, alive. A structure that absorbed light and removed a man's arm at the point of contact. A 40-page letter that the government tried to legally erase. And 1 word that explains why no map has ever shown that cave. Obscure Nights exists because these accounts deserve to exist. Subscribe right now. We are 100 subscribers from 1,000, and every single one is someone who makes sure the next case gets told. Hit the button, because next week we found something else the maps are not showing, and it is older than the park that sits above it. 3 rangers. 3 careers ended by what they could not unsee. Silas saw something wearing a dead man's jacket walk through solid granite, and watched the case file it came from disappear from the system overnight. Elena found 14 goodbye recordings arranged at the base of a tree in a valley that the Park Service retroactively classified as restricted, and watched her report disappear the same way. Marcus watched a structure consume his crew member's arm and wrote 40 pages trying to make sure someone would know, and watched the government try to consume those pages the same way the structure consumed the arm. The pattern is not the things they saw. The pattern is what happened to the evidence afterward. Every report erased, every case file removed, every record reclassified. Whatever is in those parks, the system protecting it is not passive. It is active. It moves quickly. It knows exactly which documents to find and exactly how to make them disappear. 3 rangers quit because they understood that the organization they worked for was not trying to protect the public from what was in those parks. It was protecting what was in those parks from the public. And it has been doing it for a very long time. This is Obscure Nights, where the cases nobody talks about get told the way they actually happened. Subscribe, because next week, something else the maps are not showing, and it has been there longer than any of us have been asking questions. Good night.